Welcome back to the Wild Ones Pro Show, coming to you after stage 18 of the Tour de France.
That's Jimmy. I'm producer Emily, and we're also back with pro cycling journalist Katie. Hi, Katie.
Hiya.
And thanks to Garmin and Van Rysel for supporting the show. Now let's get into today's highlights.
The show must go on. Yes, it was time for a bicycle race, and it was a huge day in the Alps for the peloton as they took on a killer Queen stage of this year's tour. It began with a truce, or was it mutiny? As teams agreed to allow Little Trek to lead the race, the first 23 kilometres effectively neutralised to allow Jonathan Milan to ride for the intermediate sprint points. Little Trek seemed to confirm the alliance via the team radio, announcing, "There's lots of teams who want the green jersey to go to a sprinter and not to Pogi." After that, Milan dropped off and he'd have plenty of good company as a huge gruppetto formed quickly for the tough day ahead. The break didn't really establish itself until the first climb at the Col de Glandon. Eventually, a 14-rider lead group coalesced, and there was some serious firepower, including Lenny Martinez, Matteo Jorgensen, a satellite rider for Jonas Vingegaard, and Primoz Roglic. Almost 12 minutes down on GC, he was no threat to the leaders, so he was able to break free and headed up the road.
I think we're finally allowed to talk about him because maybe he did care today. Anyway, they headed down the descent with that yellow jersey group 1 minute 50 behind.
On the second climb of the day, the Col de Madeleine, Visma led the charge, and the time gap dropped below 3 minutes under pressure from the top GC teams. The breakaway was just waiting for the hammer to fall, and fall it did as Jorgensen increased the pace at the front, while back in the yellow jersey group, Sepkus accelerated, with Vingegaard on his wheel, and only Pogačar and Lipowitz could stay with them. At 71.6 kilometres to go, Vingegaard made his move. Kuss dropped away and the Dane forged ahead and bridged to Jorgensen and the remainder of the break, with a few kilometres still remaining on the climb. Over the top of the Madeleine, and Jorgensen led down the descent and headed into the flat valley section ahead of the final climb. He kicked on, and Ben O'Connor and Ina Rubio of Movistar went with him. They quickly built a lead of over 3 minutes as behind Lipowitz bridged to the yellow jersey group. It was a kind of magic how he managed to get across to them on his own. Shortly after, he launched an attack, and he headed off up the road while the big guns stared each other down. They slowed down enough to allow riders behind to come back, led by Team Picnic Postanel, riding for Oscar Onley, who had been 4 minutes down at one point.
They absolutely flew through, didn't they? It was like a steam train.
It was amazing. It actually made Pogačar and Vingegaard look ordinary for a minute there.
For a moment.
The group also included teammates for both Pogačar and Vingegaard, and they headed on to the final climb, the Col de la Loze. Ben O'Connor attacked solo with just over 15 kilometres to go on the climb. The gap stayed at around 3:20 with Visma continuing to lead, but the tables turned at around 11 kilometres to go as Sepkus was done and the balance of power shifted, UAE taking over with 2 domestiques left for Pogi, Jonathan Narvaez and Adam Yates. The GC group was down to 8 riders heading onto the final most difficult section of the Loze, and while Roglic came back for Red Bull, it was a case of another one bites the dust for Lipowitz, whose valiant efforts came back to haunt him, and he was dropped as his white jersey rival Oscar Onley was able to go with the lead group, his pacing strategy on point today. As for the stage itself, Jayco Alula were finally able to claim "We are the champions" for the first time in this year's race, as Ben O'Connor rode to his second Tour de France stage win.
And the first non-European winner of this year's Tour de France as well.
Indeed. Vingegaard finally launched an attack just 1 kilometre from the summit, but he was unable to drop either Pogačar or Onley, and with just a few kilometres left, Pogačar kicked and moved clear, taking 9 seconds on the line from Vingegaard and some bonus seconds too.
A familiar sight indeed. So what does all of this mean for the jerseys?
Pogačar is, of course, still in first. Jonas is second, 4 minutes and 26 seconds down now. The real battle is going on for third place between young riders Lipowitz and Onley. Lippo is currently third at 11 minutes 1 second down, with Onley just 22 seconds behind. Roglic is in fifth, and Felix Gall moves up to sixth.
So I think if we are looking to see a battle tomorrow, look at the young riders' jersey in that hunt for a third place, a podium.
Well, yeah, it's 2 battles though, isn't it? Like it's young riders' jersey for them, which is awesome, but it's also the podium of the Tour de France, the actual main leaders' podium. That's incredible.
Yeah, and we definitely noticed a very different strategy playing out between Red Bull and Picnic today, didn't we?
Yeah, it was really stark to see the contrast between the two teams. We had Roglic up the road early, and Lipowitz seemingly dropped. He worked his way back, then Roglic dropped, then they swapped again, but the most noticeable thing about it was they were both alone the whole time.
Yeah.
They never worked together. They didn't ride for one another. And I feel as though perhaps Red Bull were hedging their bets, thinking maybe we can try and get on the podium with Roglic and win the white jersey with Lipowitz. But it blew up. And meanwhile, Oscar Onley, with his train of riders, looking after him extremely well, pacing beautifully. And he absolutely was on, well, he just nailed that final climb and has really put himself in. I mean, can you imagine Oscar Onley on the podium? I think I actually realised it upstairs just before, and it's such a cool thought that he could make that.
I think they're both very, very likable, and it's nice to see, isn't it? I'm happy for either of them. I'm slightly drawn towards Onley just because he's in a team that doesn't have a humongous budget, as far as I'm aware, and is Scottish.
Mm-hmm. Did you see he posted his effort on Strava the other day, and he wrote underneath it, this was the day I think that Lipowitz got away from him, and he said, I'm not buying Red Bull anymore, I'm not funding those attacks. But today he got his own back. And, you know, yes, he couldn't quite hold on to a Pogačar attack at the end, but who can? But he was on the wheel of Vingegaard, and at 22 years old, it's such a bright future, isn't it?
It's really exciting. The young riders competition it's brought the race to life this year. It's been fantastic to see. And as you say, Jimmy, whichever one of those two riders ends up on the podium, it's a huge, huge achievement. And both of them have very bright futures.
Unless Roglic just keeps chipping away.
Do you want to talk us through the green jersey? What is going on over there? Because there's definitely some sort of mutiny, you called it, truce, alliance. What's going on?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, isn't it? We heard that communication really early on the radio from Lidl Trek saying that the other teams had basically agreed to let them just ride for the points. We may, in a normal stage, have seen the breakaway kicking off really early, trying to get up the road, and those intermediate sprint points being essentially nullified by whoever was in the breakaway. But that's not what happened. The race effectively began after the intermediate sprint. And yeah, so Milan pretty much has it secured now. He's leading by 75 points now. So, but yeah, it's a really interesting idea that the sprinters might have come together, or not just the sprinters, but teams in general, actually, to make sure that this jersey goes to a sprinter, or, you know.
I also saw an interview with Luke Durbridge, who rides for Jayco, basically saying that the sprinters were annoyed that they feel like they have been denied a final flat stage, and the fact that they're seeing so much elevation in flat stages generally. He said something to the effect of, you know, there's already so many stages for Van der Poel and Pogi to win. What's left for the sprinters, kind of thing. So there's definitely rumblings of disdain within the peloton. So, you know, this kind of neutralise the breakaway, let there be some competition is really interesting to see, I think.
So essentially what you're suggesting is that because there was an early intermediate sprint, they ultimately neutralised the whole race until the sprint.
Yeah.
Like themselves, perhaps.
Yeah. Mm. Totally, because literally straight after that point, Wout van Aert and others got up
just
the
attacked
road.
like it was the start of the race.
Yeah, and we saw Wout with Milan having quite a long conversation just before that kicked off. So, and Wout went up the road straight away. So there was a sense of like, well, you do this and then I can do that.
Isn't again, not going into the preview of tomorrow, but isn't there a really early intermediate sprint again?
Super early, like 8K.
So you could argue it's perhaps good course design and allowing this to be an option. But we also can't assume that UAE weren't also involved in the truce, if you want to call it that, because Pollitt has had some accusations thrown at him. Pogga's always getting stuff thrown at him saying, you know, stop winning everything and give other people a chance. And UAE have had a bit of heat as well. So I guess you could argue it's in their interests to also let someone else win a green jersey instead of Pog.
Yeah, I did notice in their latest press conference, they were getting a lot of negative questions thrown at them. And I do think that Pogačar is someone that cares about his reputation. He likes to be liked, as we all do.
Well,
except from Jimmy, apparently. And there's one hand of like, how much does he like to be liked? You know, if there is a chance to get a green as well as a yellow, why wouldn't he? But I don't think that's necessarily on his agenda. I think he's out to get yellow, and like you're saying, Jimmy, maybe it's actually in everyone's interest. He hasn't been actively going after it anyway. So maybe it's in everyone's interest that he allows other people to get that win and it takes a bit of heat off.
Seems that way, maybe.
Because I was so convinced he was going after the stage today, and we also didn't see that either.
I feel like we have seen a slightly more muted version of him over the last week, maybe. I don't know whether there's something underlying, he did say he had a bit of a cold. Perhaps there's that.
I was going to say, you did also predict that he would be more muted in the final week because he has the Vuelta to come. It's everyone else's job to catch up with him. He's put in such a dent so early that he can just sit back now. We just didn't expect him to.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. And I think it's because we're so used to seeing him attack everything in front of him that seeing anything but that is a bit weird. But it's absolutely the right thing for him to do, to just sit and let it unfold in front of him. He's nothing else to prove.
Bearing in mind, he did still beat everyone around him.
Yeah, exactly.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Apart from once where I think Van der Poel beat him.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it. I think he's really matured as a rider.
Well, he wanted to prove he was the best.
Yeah.
He's done that. So now it's all about status, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep ticking up more trophies? But everyone is just accepted now. Pog's the boy.
Mm-hmm. King of the Mountains jersey. Pogacar's leading that competition too.
Oh, is he? He's leading it now again, is he?
He is, yes, but because there was double points on offer.
Oh, yes, of course.
Vingegaard and Pogacar came over the second climb ahead of everyone, so they picked up basically the full points, and then at the end they came over pretty much at the top group, and there was double points on offer. So Pog's in first, Vingegaard leapfrogs Lenny Martinez into second.
Oh, Lenny will be gutted, but...
He tried very hard as well. We're going to talk about that because he gets the fluff up of the day. But first of all, let's talk about abandons and injuries.
Yeah, so thankfully Biniam escaped without any fractures yesterday. He's continuing on, but his team say they're monitoring him closely. His teammates Louis Barret and Hugo Page also escaped without breakages after their crashes. Carlos Rodriguez, sadly, is out though. He fractured his pelvis in a crash yesterday. And so is Cyril Butt of Groupama FDG. He was caught up in that crash and withdrew prior to the start of the stage. We saw one DNF during the stage today, and that was Enric Mas of Movistar.
Okay, now I will tell you about the fluff up of the day. It goes to Lenny Martinez for one of the most blatant sticky bottle incidents we have seen in this tour and in recent tours, I would say. It looked like he was looking for any excuse to hang on to his team car up the first climb where he was in search of the King of the Mountains points. He did subsequently get them. I'm not sure whether we will see some sort of sanction because basically... I don't think he realised all of this was being captured on camera, but essentially the team car was next to him side by side. It passed him something which he hung on to for a really good while. He then took it off him, sort of pretended to put it in his pocket, then just handed it straight back to them. They then passed him a bottle. He held on to that again for ages, put that on his bike, and then they offered him another bottle, which he grabbed onto literally solely for the purpose of getting a free ride. He then launched up the road off the momentum of it.
And left the bottle behind.
Yeah. It was literally felt like any excuse to get a little bit of a head start.
Can I tell you who isn't impressed by his move today?
Who's that?
Thibaut Pinot. Thibaut Pinot posted on Twitter with a little vomity emoji.
Oh no.
He's very upset. His fellow countryman would do something to dishonour the race in such a way.
No.
A former teammate, so I don't think that Pinot would have taken very kindly to Lenny moving to Bahrain from the French team Groupama. So yes, Thibaut Pinot has passed judgment. So let's see what the UCI say.
Okay, well, in other news, a man got taken out by police on the finish line of yesterday's stage after jumping the barrier with his bike and attempting to cycle the final kilometre. He was in a Decathlon AG2R kit, and he even gone so far as to pin a fake number to his jersey and his bike. He managed to pedal a few hundred metres or so before he came face to face with race officials on the line. He swerved one of them, and then a police officer brought him to a halt by shoulder barging him incredibly hard off his bike. He was then dragged slowly off the course before the riders came through. So some speculated that the man was a protester, but it sort of felt unlikely. It definitely wasn't clear what he was protesting. we were pretty sure that it was some sort of prank or perhaps for social media clout.
You went into investigative journalist mode and you were like, this guy is definitely doing this for YouTube or something.
Well,
and you just started digging.
Yeah, so I clearly saw that he had a social media handle plastered across the front and back of his jersey. That's where he wanted us to look. So I had a look, and it was literally just for his own Instagram profile. It was incredibly boring. But what I found is that it's not the first time he's done something like this. So he once ran onto the pitch during a Portugal football match to get a selfie with Cristiano Ronaldo. The security guards there were just incredibly lax about the situation. They sort of like jogged over to him, by which point he was talking to Cristiano. They waited for him to get a nice selfie, and then they just like slowly escorted him off the pitch. So perhaps he wasn't expecting to face the might of the French gendarmerie.
Well, I guess, though, if you put into context, they've got armed guards against one of the teams, which are, well, we won't even go into the details of that. We had someone with a knife on one of the earlier stages. For all they knew, this was some form of terror attack or some form of something more sinister, and therefore they have to treat it very seriously.
Yeah, I feel like AG2R are going to be like, we do not claim him.
Well, he's clearly got nothing to do with that.
They genuinely don't claim him, no. I think he was just, he'd found a jersey and is having a bit of fun, but naughty. The Wild Ones Pro Show is supported by Garmin.
And we are in some really good company because Garmin also supports some of the very best riders in the Tour de France and the Tour de France Femmes.
Yeah, they work with teams like Vismalisa Bike, Soudal Quickstep, SD Works Pro Time, FDJ Suez, and many more.
And because Garmin provides these teams with trainers, head units and wearables, they've got access to mountains of incredible data.
And they're going to share some of that data with us throughout the coming stages. So we'll get a really interesting insight into the physical demands of the most prestigious bike races in the world.
So please stay tuned for that. And once again, thanks to Garmin for supporting the show.
How would you like to win a Van Rysel RCR-F 105 Di2 worth £5,000?
I would love to. I've ridden that bike. It is proper good.
Well, sorry, Jimmy, you can't. But one of our UK listeners will, thanks to our sponsor, Van Rysel.
That's class. The RCR-F is literally a Tour de France race bike.
Yeah, the official bikes of Decathlon, AG2R, Le Mondial.
The 105 version has the same grade of carbon that the pros ride.
So to enter the draw to win this bike, click the link in our description. You must be a UK resident, age 18 or over, and T's and C's apply. One winner will be chosen by Van Rysel and contacted by them a week after the draw closes at midnight on August 4th. I sound like one of those radio adverts, don't I?
No, it wasn't fast enough. So good luck, and thanks to Van Rysel for supporting the Wild Ones Pro Show.
Okay, shall we finish off with a Stage 19 preview?
Yeah, I haven't put any Queen song titles in this one.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Go back to the highlights and see how many Queen songs you can pick out of Katie's write-up, because she cleverly weaved them in.
And we'll give a prize of nothing to whoever gets it right.
I tried to get Bohemian Rhapsody in, but I just couldn't figure out So, Stage 19, it's the second of a pair of challenging days in the Alps for the bunch on Stage 19. And though it's more than 40 kilometres shorter than today's stage at just 129.9k, it packs a serious punch. 4,550 metres of altitude gain, with 5 categorised climbs, 2 of them HC rated. Beginning in Albertville, there's an intermediate sprint after just 8 kilometres, as we mentioned earlier, and from there the difficulties begin. A Cat 2 and Cat 1 climb for starters, before a long descent leads the riders to the Col de Pré, 12.6 kilometres at 7.7%, which kicks up onto another Cat 2 climb almost immediately after. A long descent of around 32k gives way to the final HC mountain test of the race. La Plana is a 19.1 kilometre long ascent with a 7.2% average gradient. It's the last chance for anyone who wants to try something in the mountains.
Well, let's hope it's a good one.
Yeah.
I was just thinking Pogacar sees a little silhouette of a man. His finger go. Sorry, I've lost it.
It's the other way, isn't it? Vingegaard sees a little silhouette of a man, Pogacar riding away.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, dear God.
Also, I wanted to mention, we are going to be covering the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift when that starts in a couple of days' time. And we are also going to be doing another fantasy league via Velo Games.
Yes.
So start working on your teams And we believe there's going to be some sort of drop down to join our fantasy league again.
There is a drop down again, so you'll see CADE. If you're already in the CADE league, I think it automatically puts your FAM team in that separate CADE league. If you're not, there'll be a drop down under the join league which says CADE, so join that.
Yeah, and if you come first, you win
nothing.
But we'll have good fun. I was trying to refresh the site to see what's going on with our staff league, but it's not loading currently. Too many people on the system, or maybe just my crap internet right now, but we shall have to save that one for another day.
And so we shall, for another day. So goodbye.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.